For years, the United States was locked in a deadly conflict with the Sioux over control of the Great Plains. In the 1870s, after the Civil War, Americans pushed westward, seeking to settle lands that were already home to the Sioux and other Native American tribes. This expansion ignited a war between the Sioux and the U.S. government. In June 1876, the most infamous battle occurred. Leading the U.S. 7th Cavalry was Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer, a celebrated Civil War hero. Opposing him was Sitting Bull, a respected Lakota leader and spiritual figure. What followed was one of the most legendary defeats in American military history. It was known as the Battle of Little Bighorn, or Custer's Last Stand. After the American Civil War, the United States was rapidly expanding and pushing westward, determined to claim new lands and resources. But this land was already inhabited. Native American tribes, such as the Lakota Sioux, the Cheyenne, and the Arapaho, had lived on these plains for centuries. The discovery of gold in the Black Hills of South Dakota in 1874 prompted a gold rush, drawing thousands of settlers into the sacred land of the Lakota Sioux. The U.S. government had promised to protect native lands, but these promises had been broken again and again. At the center of the Sioux resistance was Sitting Bull, a medicine man, warrior, and leader. He was not only a symbol of the Sioux spirit, but also a protector of his people's rights. His leadership was marked by wisdom and a deep connection to his spiritual beliefs. Sitting Bull knew the stakes were high. His people's future depended on what happened in the coming months. Sitting Bull's vision was clear. The Sioux would not be displaced. They would fight to preserve their land, their culture, and their way of life. Meanwhile, to the east, another figure was becoming famous: General George Armstrong Custer, a brash and ambitious officer. Custer had become famous for his actions during the Civil War. In the post-war years, he was quick to take on challenges. By the mid-1870s, Custer was assigned to lead the 7th Cavalry in a campaign to remove Native Americans from the Black Hills and surrounding areas. Custer believed he could defeat any adversary, and this overconfidence would soon become his fatal flaw. The U.S. government was eager to quell the Native American resistance, and they sent Custer and his troops to deal with the Lakota and other tribes. Custer's orders were clear: break the Sioux resistance and force them onto reservations. But what Custer did not anticipate was the unity and strength of the Lakota and their allies. Sitting Bull had rallied the Sioux and other tribes to a single cause: to protect their land from the U.S. government. The battle was approaching, but no one knew just how disastrous it would be for Custer. In the summer of 1876, Sitting Bull led his people to the banks of the Little Bighorn River. Here in what is now Montana, he and his followers met with thousands of other Native American warriors and families, which included Cheyenne and Arapaho. The encampment was one of the largest ever assembled by Native Americans. Sitting Bull's vision was of a great and unified resistance. He foresaw a great victory, a sign from the spirits that the Lakota would not be conquered. It was here in the heart of their land that Sitting Bull prepared for the fight of his life. But on the other side, Custer's forces were marching through the encampment, completely unaware of just how large the Native American force was. His intelligence was poor, and his decision-making, based on his growing arrogance, would lead him into a trap. On June 25, 1876, Custer led the 7th Cavalry towards the sprawling native encampment. Believing he faced only a fraction of the warriors present, he divided his forces into 3 separate groups, hoping to surround the village and strike from multiple angles. His plan was bold but deeply flawed. His intelligence on the enemy's numbers were inaccurate. His men were fatigued from days of riding, and most critically, he had vastly underestimated the strength, unity, and determination of the Native American warriors. As Custer's men advanced, the vastness of the Sioux and Cheyenne forces became terrifyingly clear. Before they could execute their attack, they were met with a fierce and immediate counterstrike. Sitting Bull, though not a battlefield commander, had inspired his people with visions of victory. His leadership emboldened the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors, who surged forward with unrelenting force. The U.S. troops, unprepared for the sheer number of fighters they faced, quickly found themselves outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. The battle was swift and brutal. Warrior leaders like Crazy Horse and Gall led devastating charges, tearing through Custer's ranks. The cavalry, accustomed to facing smaller, scattered bands of warriors, were now trapped in an open landscape with no cover and no escape. Custer and his men fought desperately, but they were surrounded on all sides. Within hours, Custer and over 200 of his men lay dead, their bodies laid across the battlefield in one of the most stunning defeats in U.S. military history. It was a crushing blow to the U.S. Army and a monumental victory for Sitting Bull and the Native American tribes. The Battle of Little Bighorn would go down as one of the most iconic and consequential moments of the American Indian Wars. The story of the Battle of Little Bighorn and the men at the heart of it reminds us of the complex history of the American West, a history of clashing civilizations, of cultural conflict, and the resilience of a people determined to protect their way of life. The battle was over, but the story of the Sioux, Sitting Bull, and the American West was far from finished.